Now we know what's going on with Ubisoft, and yeah, it's not in a good spot. So there's a post by Stevie Chassard maybe, who is the monetization director at Ubisoft. And this is what they had to say. I rarely post on social media, but today I am sad, ashamed, and sad. The gaming industry is in a rough is rough, excuse me, at the moment. We all know it. But seeing how gamers react on social media is wishing ill fate to companies and people alike is sad. It's not only towards Ubisoft. Even though it is always a vocal minority that expresses themselves on social media, I was hurt and ashamed to be a part of this community. What is even more revolting is coming on LinkedIn and seeing the same comments from people within the industry. On top of exposing yourself as a clearly non decent human being, you are affecting thousands of employees that are already impacted by the hate despite doing their best to deliver incredible experiences. How can you wish a company to fail simply because they do not cater to you or that the product does not please you is beyond me. We are all in the same boat. Please, please stop spreading hate. We should all uplift each other instead of bringing each other down. Okay. So while I can empathize with some of it, like, yeah, wishing somebody fails, right, in context is or by itself is fucking weird. Okay. Totally understand that. That said, I think being the monetization director at Ubisoft, the context does matter. So right now, what's going on with you? Star Wars Outlaws didn't land. Okay, didn't quite have the interest there. Star Wars fans didn't really show up to support it. General, maybe Ubisoft fans didn't seem to come out, and it's not getting the return. At least that's the rumor, right? We haven't got confirmation. It'll be a while before we get confirmation on how much that actually sold. Okay, then you have a property that is yours, Assassin's Creed. Somehow, somebody over there, and it probably wasn't you as the monetization director, and maybe it's not the actual developers. Maybe they're looking at it as just another gig for them, and that's a shame. Either way, they're part of it. And y'all thought that it was a great idea, Ubisoft that is, to finally take Assassin's Creed to Japan. We've had some success there, kind of depicting that culture. Ghost of Tsushima. Great. Now, instead of playing it the safest route, which is usually what Ubisoft you would think would do, instead of playing it that route, you didn't play it that route. You didn't play it that route at all. As far as safe, you said, "Hey, we're going to take this Yasuke character, which is conflicting history on him. Nothing about him really being a samurai. There's no confirmation of that. It doesn't exist. And we're going to have this obscure kind of character going around killing a bunch of Japanese people. The Japanese, not really into that. Right? Now, could you have had Yasuke because there's at least some historical evidence of him being a thing? Great. A side character, perhaps. But no, he's your main protagonist. Yes, you have another one that's a woman. So it didn't sit well with a lot of people. Okay. Not at all. And you're feeling that backlash. Some from Assassin's Creed's fans. And now everybody knows what's happening in the gaming industry. And that's the context right now is what's going on with the gaming industry and some of the things you focused on, especially coming from AAA studios, has been not gaming. Ubisoft, your company, came out and you're like, hey, it's not about agendas. That's what your CEO said. Az and I debunked that lie because if we go to your website right now, you have a bunch of agenda driven stuff. In fact, let me pull that stuff up if you don't mind. So this looks like a company right here that doesn't have an agenda. Now, what this has to do about games, I don't know. But for whatever reason, you have a commitment to the Alphabet community. Not sure why you thought that was a great idea, but you did. You have an entire section, and this is coming from directly from Ubisoft's website. You guys see, I ain't bullshitting you. I would never do that. You focus on social impact. I don't know what this has to do about games. Supporting social causes, the DEI, the environment. What the fuck does this have to do about games? Nothing. Now you might be looking at that and say, well, what the it's all part of the context. Monetization director. It's all part of the context of why the gaming industry is getting the heat that it's getting with regard to the AAA titles. People are sick of this shit, just like they're sick of it in Hollywood. Your company has been leading the charge on that. You've laid a couple of duds. And now you got another one that's on the way. It's not a dud. Like, I don't know, gameplay may be fucking amazing. Who knows? I have no idea. But you can't ignore that context when speaking about the general heat that the industry itself is getting. So while I can empathize with, okay, well, wishing someone to fail because they don't cater to you is kind of weird. Yeah, but that's not what we're dealing with here, is it, Ubisoft? We're dealing with often companies that have a baked-in audience, or had, for that matter. That's why it hits different, right? You don't see oftentimes people talk about that obscure random Steam game that may be gay as shit, right? But it's an original concept. It might be goofy, but nobody talks about that shit like that. But you then attach it to a brand that people already recognize. You already have baked in fans, and yes, they're sick of that shit. So whether it be based on race, maybe it's based on social causes, maybe it's just general gameplay experiences being mundane. I've done several videos about this. Hell, I've even gone back and forth with folks on that subject and talking about the mundane experience of gaming when it comes from the AAA. That ain't even got nothing to do with race or sexuality or any of this other shit. So that context matters, right? And you can't ignore that. And gaming's in a rough spot because, well, as far as the major studios are concerned, they put themselves in the tough spot. This is a self-imposed problem. Or as far as this issue here, this is something they did to themselves. This isn't some shit that I did. This isn't some shit that someone else did. They did it. And the market is responding accordingly. And I can't blame them at all for doing exactly that. And saying, like, guys, we are sick of this shit. You guys are spending so much money on this, and you're trying to sell folks on this, and they don't want it. That's it. It's not a rocket science. It's not difficult to understand.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to head over to Rippaverse.com to check out our comic book company. We have books, plenty of merchandise, and even some glorious animations from Rippaverse Studios.